This is ABC7 News at 7, your Suncoast News. We're here for you.
I think everyone likes the idea of their taxes going down.
But will we see lower taxes under the Trump administration? After losing his fight to repeal Obamacare, the president says he is shifting his focus to reforming the tax code. Can Republicans actually get a bill through Congress? How could it affect us here on the Suncoast? And by the way, have you filed for this year? The deadline is tomorrow. Good evening, everyone. I'm Alan Cohn, and welcome to ABC 7 at 7. We'll have more on the tax deadline and possible tax reform coming up. But first, our top 7 stories at 7. This is getting serious. We begin tonight with a new warning about an increasing water shortage in effect from Central Florida to Key West. While the Suncoast isn't under that warning, residents are being asked to conserve. The Southwest Florida Water Management District, or SWIFMUD, is activating phase 1 of its water restrictions. Residents can only water their yards 2 days a week. In Sarasota, it is once a week. SWIFMUD says Manatee County's water supply will be okay through another 5 months of drought, while Sarasota County could withstand 10 months.
We're about to go into the wet season, so we're hoping we can sustain until then. So we are asking all of our residents in your viewing area to conserve water where they can.
Selby Gardens recommends adding mulch near plants to retain moisture, try hand watering in certain areas, and water deep roots directly instead of spraying the surface. The drought is fueling wildfires across the state. Florida remains under a state of emergency with 110 active wildfires currently burning. Roughly 23,000 acres are burning across the state tonight. 27 homes have been lost and around 200 people have been evacuated. Locally, Manatee is under an extreme fire warning and Sarasota is under a moderate warning. So far this year, there have been 79 wildfires in the Myakka River District. They have burned 3 times more land than last year, which is why we're being urged to be cautious when burning trash, using charcoal grill, or even tossing a cigarette butt. You'd think our law enforcement agencies are officially accredited, meaning that they meet professional standards, but that is not always a given. Manatee County Sheriff's Office is preparing for an assessment this week to renew its seal of approval. All aspects of the agency will be examined, including policies, procedures, and management operations. The Sheriff's Office must meet 383 different standards. It was last assessed in 2014. Both the Sarasota and Bradenton Police Departments have lost their accreditations in recent years. Hospitals across the Suncoast are getting the results of assessments on their safety. Leapfrog rates hospitals across the country every spring, giving them a grade for safety standards. Manatee Memorial Hospital scored the lowest grade, a D. Venice Regional Bayfront Health and Blake Medical Center received C grades. The only hospitals to get A grades were Sarasota Memorial, Doctors Hospital, and Englewood Community Hospital. According to surveys, traffic congestion continues to be one of the biggest issues on the Suncoast. In the coming years, Florida's Department of Transportation is planning more than 100 projects to keep drivers moving. Its tentative work plan set to be completed by 2022. While some of the projects are small, there are massive changes in the works. They include revamping I-75 interchanges at State Road 64, State Road 70, and B Ridge Road. The Metropolitan Planning Organization says easing congestion comes with a big price tag.
We're looking at hundreds of millions of dollars over the next 5 years, not counting what's already going on this year.
The tentative plan includes 62 improvement projects in Manatee County and 46 in Sarasota. It is subject to changes based upon budget constraints. It's the last ride of the season for the Venice Trolley. The service cost taxpayers in the city around $77,000 for the 3-month run. The city council is questioning whether or not it's worth the cost to bring it back next year. Last year, the trolley had only 118 riders each day. The goal is to relieve traffic, but it is used more often for sightseeing. See you next year, snowbirds. It may not seem like it, but tonight we are learning fewer visitors came to the area this spring compared to last year. According to Visit Sarasota County, the rising cost of hotels and rentals kept some tourists away during the height of the season. Among other factors, a decline in the international market. It is also being blamed for lower numbers. However, there is one exception.
Canada's our #1 international market. They're paying almost a 30% premium to come here. Now, the good news is we ran a big campaign in Toronto earlier this year, and we were able to actually get that Canadian business back.
Sarasota and Manatee expect to have tourism numbers for March next month. Still, it's the greatest place on earth. That's why we call it paradise, Bob.
That's right, and extended too. Right now, we're looking at temperatures, water temperatures, mid to upper 70s. Makes it really feel nice here. So it's not that hot weather that we get in the August and September quite yet. I know I talked to a couple of people today. I had lunch with them that they're leaving, going back to Chicago in a couple of weeks at the end of this month. A few showers down to our south right now. Boy, that rain is much needed here, but it's not going to make it here, unfortunately. A few showers have developed to our south. You can see that thin line right there moving just to the east of Parrish, stretching to the east of Lakewood Ranch. That's the actual sea breeze front that can be picked up and detected by the change in temperature of the different air masses and wind speed that we have moving in from the Gulf of Mexico with that sea breeze. Currently, we do have some clouds around. 77 degrees. Dew point is at 61. Winds out of the northwest at 9. The pressure 30.05, which is still pretty high, and that is holding steady for the most part. You can see some of that blue and green there moving in from the Gulf. That's associated with the blow-off of tops of storms all the way out in the Gulf of Mexico and working their way from Texas, where Texas is getting a lot of rainfall. Evening planner looks like this tonight, just clear skies by 11 o'clock and still pretty mild, 70 degrees. Temperatures will stay slightly above average tonight. Right now it's 77 in Sarasota, 78 in Orlando and Key West. A bit cooler with the rain nearby there in Key West. Now, Lakewood Ranch reporting 79 degrees, and that's fairly uniform across much of the interior. 75, however, in Inglewood, and 76 in Minnesota Beach, Anna Maria at 76. Now, satellite imagery continues to show that cloudiness, the upper level clouds spilling in our direction. We should see a real decent day again tomorrow with the rain staying to our south. I know I say that, but we're talking about beachgoers and folks who like to enjoy the weather outdoors. I know this fire danger is only going to get worse too, because I looked at the long range models and it doesn't really show much happening. We have a chance for some showers on Sunday, but not enough to do any significant help with our drought.
Just be careful with your brush and charcoal and et cetera.
Absolutely.
Thanks a lot, Bob. And still to come, nothing is certain in this world except death and taxes. But could the amount you pay change under the new administration? Find out what local tax experts are forecasting. The story when we return.
Invest in Kids is a $7.5 million project to build a new Boys and Girls Club in South Manatee County. I'm Caleb Grimes, and I was a club kid. It's where I learned important life lessons, leadership, integrity, responsibility, and baseball. Thousands of kids attend the Boys and Girls Clubs, and after years of use, their club is slowly falling apart. Help us invest in kids. Make your donation today.
We asked you, Suncoast, why do you like ABC7?
I like ABC7 because it's local.
It gives me all the local news.
The local news, local weather.
It's so local and so community-driven.
Kelly Wilgus does a great job.
John Scalzi, that's my guy.
Bob Harrigan is wonderful. Stephanie's my favorite.
I like Scott Dennis.
I like them all.
We're all very grateful that you cover what you do and you're here to participate with the community.
ABC7, your Suncoast News. We're here for you.
Sarasota Magazine and PNC Wealth Management present the Best of Sarasota Soiree at Selby Gardens on April 24th.
It's an evening to sip, savor, and celebrate Sarasota Manatee's best of winners.
This year will be full of Warhol-inspired surprises, entertainment, and a tribute to those representing the best in our community.
Come join ABC7 for all the fun.
Get your tickets today at sarasotamagazine.com.
Coming up on Good Morning Suncoast, we'll let you know whether it's rain, shine, or perhaps something in between. Join us.
Plus, a push for more rest stops along I-75, how you can have a say in where they're located. And county leaders are inviting you to a discussion on expanding where you can rent kayaks and stand-up paddle boards. Tomorrow, starting at 5 on Good Morning Suncoast.
ABC7, we're here for you. ABC7 News at 7, weeknights.
Northland Outdoors is about so much more than the biggest fish or the hottest hunting spots. All across the Northland, there are amazing people with incredible stories to tell. So we're going to find those stories and share them with everyone.
Join us each and every week as we explore the Northland and experience some of the most exciting outdoor adventures in the country right here in our own backyard. This is Northland Outdoors.
You get your taxes done yet? Have you?
I have, yes.
Okay. All right. On this Tax Day Eve, we thought it would be a good time to check the status of tax reform that President Trump and his congressional majority have promised. ABC7's Adam Cellini is here to explain what we think we know so far and who it could affect the most. Adam.
Yeah, well, Alan, this is all still preliminary as the president announced he was going back to square one with that plan earlier this week. But many expect tax cuts across the board and an effort to have foreign countries cover the difference.
At Liberty Tax in Sarasota, there's little to look forward to during tax season.
It seems like you get retired and you shouldn't have to pay all that much money.
Just same thing every year. It doesn't really matter. You got to pay them.
But down the road, local CPA Ray Saplee says his clients are moving their income forward because they could keep more of it if Donald Trump's tax reform plan goes through.
They basically took the money and pushed it into this year with the opportunity that instead of it being 39.6 plus 3.6, it's basically, you know, it's possible that it'll be at 33 flat.
Saplee handles mostly high net worth clients, many with investments in real estate and the stock market, who could see big savings under the proposed changes. Based on President Trump's rhetoric, analysts say his plan could include a cut in the max income tax rate, elimination of investment tax, and a lower tax on capital gains.
I don't think anybody's excited over it. I think everyone likes the idea of their taxes going down.
Big businesses would also see big savings if their max income rate drops from 35 to 15%, as Trump has indicated.
GM doesn't have to sell one more car, and they're making potentially 10% or 15 or 20% more without doing anything.
It's classic trickle-down economics. The more businesses save, the more they can reinvest in employees or infrastructure. Middle-class Americans will also see some cuts, but economist Kristen Zaborski says it's hard to tell what effect it may have.
If they decide to save that money and sit on it or invest that in their retirement, then that doesn't help the economy.
Zaborski thinks some may still be cautious from the recession. And another hurdle she sees for Trump's anticipated plan, a deficit nearly double the federal revenue.
We still have a deficit there where government spending far exceeds tax revenue. And so the question is, okay, if the plan is to lower taxes, how are we going to make up the difference and seek to close the gap?
Trump has mentioned raising tariffs on imports as a way to close that gap. But raising tariffs may not make up for another proposed cut. Local tax consultant Jerry Zivick says Social Security beneficiaries could take a hit if FICA is eliminated. Over 160,000 people between Sarasota and Bradenton live on Social Security dollars.
This is something that we've all paid our whole lives, and if they make that change, it's going to have a ripple effect for years to come.
One of Trump's campaign points was expanding the earned income tax credit for those living paycheck to paycheck. It's a move that could gain bipartisan support in Congress, and something Holly Bullard at the United Way is watching closely.
It's a little known fact in certain circles that actually the most effective federal anti-poverty program is the earned income tax credit. Since the 1990s, it's been the most successful in terms of lifting families out of poverty.
Some in Congress, including local Representative Vern Buchanan, are so confident in the plan's passage they've promised an August deadline, even after the administration took it back to the drawing board last week and failed to repeal Obamacare last month.
Your guess is as good as mine at this particular point.
At this point, we shouldn't get too excited because it's all talking points.
And another idea being tossed around that pertains to our area would be the elimination of estate tax, which is currently 40% on anything above $5.5 million if you're single.
I'm sure you'll go for that.
Yeah, maybe not right now.
All right, thanks a lot. Coming up, all sides, a CPA, an economist, and a political analyst, all on the trapezoid.
Invest in Kids is a $7.5 million project to build a new Boys and Girls Club in South Manatee County. I'm Caleb Grimes, and I was a club kid. It's where I learned important life lessons, leadership, integrity, responsibility, and baseball. Thousands of kids attend the Boys and Girls Clubs, and after years of use, their club is slowly falling apart. Help us invest in kids. Make your donation today.
Thank you.
Sarasota Magazine and PNC Wealth Management present the Best of Sarasota soiree at Selby Gardens on April 24th.
It's an evening to sip, savor, and celebrate Sarasota Manatee's best of winners.
This year will be full of Warhol-inspired surprises, entertainment, and a tribute to those representing the best in our community.
Come join ABC7 for all the fun.
Get your tickets today at sarasotamagazine.com.
Coming up on Good Morning Suncoast, we'll let you know whether it's rain, shine, or perhaps something in between. Join us.
Plus, a push for more rest stops along I-75, how you can have a say in where they're located. And county leaders are inviting you to a discussion on expanding where you can rent kayaks and stand-up paddle boards. Tomorrow, starting at 5 on Good Morning Suncoast.
ABC7, we're here for you.
This is an important medical announcement. Bard IVC filters have been linked to punctured veins and problems with migration. Anyone who's received a Bard IVC filter must receive medical monitoring and may be entitled to substantial compensation. If you have the Bard Recovery G2 or G2 Express filter, you are in a class of patients who should be compensated for some expenses. Call now for a free assessment of your case and potential money damages. This call is confidential. There's no cost and you may be eligible. Juries have awarded millions of dollars to people who should have been warned about the risks of the Bard IVC filters. Call the IVC Filter Hotline if you or a loved one has received an IVC filter and experienced a vein puncture or required medical monitoring. You must call now.
Call 800-329-3089. 800-329-3089.
Welcome back. If you haven't filed your tax returns yet, hurry up. And while we're on the subject of taxes, how's that tax reform plan coming, Mr. President? And for that matter, Congressman Buchanan. If you remember, both the President and Congressman Buchanan said they expected tax reform to pass this summer. Following the November election, stocks soared in anticipation of corporate tax cuts, not to mention tax cuts for high and middle income earners. Only one problem. Republicans were banking on the savings from repealing Obamacare to fund the tax cuts. And obviously that did not happen, at least not yet. So there is tax reform this summer. If you don't hear about that so much anymore, joining us with more is Dr. Michael Snipes, an economics instructor at USF Sarasota Manatee, certified public accountant Ray Shipley, and Rod Thompson, president of the Sarasota Republican Club. And Ray, you saw Congressman Buchanan recently at the Argus Foundation, where he was sticking with the goal, at least, of getting something done by August.
I had the pleasure of sitting actually at the table with Vern, and I asked him, when is the timing of all this going to occur? And because I just read that day in Kiplinger that it was going to be next year, and he was adamant at that particular point that he said there were a bunch of other programs that sort of all fell in line, dovetailed with that it was imperative that it be done by August. That's all he disclosed.
Now, was that after the vote failed for repealing the Affordable Care Act?
Absolutely.
Because, Rod, when we're talking about the political angle of this, House Republicans and Republicans in general were counting on the savings from repealing Obamacare to help fund the tax cuts. Obviously, that's unclear at this point.
Right. That really complicated the whole tax reform conversation by having that fall apart and not having somewhere between $300 to $500 billion in savings. That's real money even in Washington. So I think what we have here is a problem where you see the president, and there's some talk, Mike Mulvaney and some others sometimes talk about maybe we need to actually revisit repealing Obamacare again so that we can get that in the right order we wanted it. I don't see how that can really happen. But look, nobody can predict what's going on in Washington right now very well, even the timing of it.
Because the Treasury Secretary said that somehow you basically have to come up with $1 trillion to fund this kind of tax reform, or it will not be as big as promised.
Well, that's why they're talking about that border adjustment tax, which is sort of like, as I understand it, and they might have a better idea, but is a tax on everything except exports, basically. And which is supposed to raise $1 trillion. When we talk about the politics of this issue, we can talk about why I think that could be problematic. But it would raise a tremendous amount of money.
Ray, in terms of what you know about the proposals that are out there, either by the Republican Congress or the president, in terms of the average person who is watching this right now, how would that affect their bottom line?
I think for the average person, it would probably drop their tax about 3% a year. It depends on what's average. I mean, the other thing is they're thinking of doing away with alternative minimum tax, which would affect, some of the population. And the other side of it is they're also talking about taking away some of the deductions that make up alternative minimum tax. So they giveth and taketh, and it's basically a wash.
Okay. Michael, there was something that I was interested in Adam's story that I want to ask you about, and that is when the economist said that if all people do with the money that they save on in their taxes is sit on it or invest in retirement, it really doesn't help the economy that much.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that you need to keep in mind with any kind of tax cut or any kind of tax reform proposal is what are we trying to accomplish with the proposal. And a lot of the times, a lot of the tax cuts that get proposed get framed with trying to help middle-class individuals recover, trying to help lower-income individuals. And the way things are being proposed is that if we make cuts at the top, then the idea is that, well, then they'll presumably invest those savings, expand their businesses, hire on more people, and then that's how basically the tax cuts would influence people at lower incomes. But it really just kind of comes down to how much or how well do those savings, those tax savings, trickle down into the economy. Because it's a nice theory in theory, but how well does that actually hold water in reality?
And that is what we want to continue on when we come back in a moment. We are just getting started with this discussion. We'll pick it up after we check weather.
If you're only hungry for a slice of apple pie, why buy the whole pie? And you certainly wouldn't want to pay for an all-you-can-eat buffet. So if you don't use your cell phone that much, why get charged for a plan that's too big, or even an unlimited plan? Luckily, there's still a wireless company that shares your values. Welcome to Consumer Cellular. Our average customer pays about $25 a month for everything they need. Many pay even less, as plans start at just $10 a month. You'll get a straightforward bill that's easy to understand, with no surprises, and all the attention you deserve from our friendly customer service team. No wonder Consumer Cellular received a J.D. Power Award for highest customer service. Plus, if you're an AARP member, you'll receive special discounts. It's easy to switch. You can even keep your phone and your number. So stop paying for more than you need and switch now. For a limited time, get your first month of service free. Call 800-457-2317, go online, or visit a Target store today.
They're coming from Tampa, Fort Myers, even Orlando. They're coming from everywhere for the Sarasota Ford Promise. Our promise means a new car you'll love. If not, return it for one you do. At Sarasota Ford, we promise live market pricing. We monitor national pricing on our entire inventory, so you get the best deal. In fact, we guarantee it. Bring us any competitor's ad, and we'll beat it by at least $1,000. That's why they're coming from everywhere to Sarasota Ford, where 41 meets 301. SarasotaFord.com.
Is your old garage door stuck or broken? Would a new one give you a lift? Let Precision Door Overhead Garage Door Service of Sarasota come to the rescue with prompt and affordable repair service. Replacement doors come with an array of styles and colors, and they are rated to meet and exceed Florida standards. From estimates to installation, your satisfaction is our priority. If you're not 100% satisfied with any product, service, or installation, we will make it right, because Precision Door Service is a name you can trust.
I heard about the Dotoli Cancer Center through friends of mine who had been treated here and were very pleased with the treatment.
If there is prostate cancer, we at the Dotoli Cancer Center will find it using 3D color flow Doppler ultrasound.
And that helped precisely identify where my cancer was. I can tell you that you will not find a finer, more professional team of clinicians anywhere in the world.
Our discussion of tax reform continues in a moment, but right now let's get a check on our forecast from Chief Meteorologist Bob Harrigan. Bob.
Thanks, Alan. A beautiful day it was today. Lots of sunshine around, then some high clouds moving in late this afternoon associated with a disturbance out there in the Gulf of Mexico. Some of the high clouds working their way in our general direction, but just enough to see the sun there going down, and should be a gorgeous sunset tonight. We had a nice one last night. This photo sent in from Lido Beach. James White snapping this last night. And that's a beautiful looking shot right there. And we are looking at warm temperatures to continue and persist at least through this week as a result of an area of high pressure which is not moving much. It's situated over North Florida now, and that's providing us with an easterly wind component. This east wind is bringing a lot of moisture right on into Texas tonight, and it kind of wraps around that high pressure ridge, and so it's riding the ridge, all that moisture, and down to our south. Some rain there in the Keys and down south near Miami, but for the most part that is dissipating now as it moves generally to the north at around 5 miles an hour. Not much rain for us. Anticipated maybe a brief shower into parts of Charlotte County this evening as this works its way through, again, Charlotte Harbor on in toward Rotunda and Placida. A few spotty showers into Highlands County, but all in all, pretty quiet Manatee and Sarasota counties at this hour. It's 77 degrees and the dew point temperature at 61. The pressure 30.05 inches. That's high and it's been holding steady. Temperatures across the state, dew point temperatures are in the 50s over the Panhandle and 60s in Sarasota. To give you an example, during the summer months, the dew point temperature never goes below 70. So we're not quite there yet as far as the overall temperatures go in summer conditions. So it's quite nice, too, when that sea breeze develops, and it will develop again tomorrow afternoon. We'll start off out of the east, anywhere from 5 to 10, should be nice. And then by, say, around noon, it starts to switch around more to a west-northwesterly direction right there near the coast. So lows tonight will be unseasonably warm, mid-60s for the most part, a little bit cooler inland. And then highs tomorrow will reach in the low to mid-80s up and down the coast. And then as we move through on Wednesday, similar conditions for Wednesday morning will be into the mid-60s for overnight lows and highs back into the 80s, some mid to upper 80s possible on Wednesday. Well, here it is for boaters. Tomorrow looks to be pretty good out there again. Waters and seas running pretty quiet out there. Light chop in the bays and inland waters. Seas will be less than 2 feet for the most part. 83 the temperature expected for the beaches. The water temperature now as 77 degrees and the UV index will be high at a 10. Tides upcoming. Low tide will be at 109 in the morning and sunset just before 8 o'clock tonight, 7:56 to be exact. Partly cloudy, clearing late, 64 for your low tomorrow. Looks good again. Sunshine in the morning, a few clouds, and there's a possibility of a lone shower in the afternoon. The extended forecast does call for a little bit better chance for some showers to move in on Sunday and Monday of next week. Al will be back with the panel right after this. Stick around.
Sarasota Magazine and PNC Wealth Management present the Best of Sarasota soiree at Selby Gardens on April 24th.
It's an evening to sip, savor, and celebrate Sarasota Manatee's best of winners.
This year will be full of Warhol-inspired surprises, entertainment, and a tribute to those representing the best in our community.
Come join ABC7 for all the fun.
Get your tickets today at sarasotamagazine.com.
Invest in Kids is a $7.5 million project to build a new Boys and Girls Club in South Manatee County. I'm Caleb Grimes, and I was a club kid. It's where I learned important life lessons, leadership, integrity, responsibility, and baseball. Thousands of kids attend the Boys and Girls Clubs, and after years of use, their club is slowly falling apart. Help us invest in kids. Make your donation today.
We asked you, Suncoast, why do you like ABC7?
I like ABC7 because it's local. It gives me all the local news. The local news, local weather. It's so local and so community-driven. Kelly Wilgus does a great job.
John Scalzi, that's my guy.
Bob Harrigan is wonderful. Stephanie's my favorite.
I like Scott Dennis. I like them all.
We're all very grateful that you cover what you do and you're here to participate with the community.
ABC7, your Suncoast News. We're here for you.
The agents at SWC would like to show you pictures of all the homes that they've sold quickly for their clients. But they're just too many to show. Contact SWC today and find out for yourself. We just market your home better.
So many times we underestimate the human spirit's drive to recover. We often see people surpass what any of us might have expected initially. The Rehabilitation Pavilion at Sarasota Memorial is the top of the line. It allows us to really bring the patient's recovery to the next level.
Are you Goodwill?
Yes, because when I donate or shop at Goodwill,
I am creating a job.
I am Goodwill, yeah.
Welcome back. The deadline to file your taxes is tomorrow. President Trump vowed to make tax reform his top priority in Congress after the repeal of Obamacare failed to pass. What kind of changes would we like to see? Our guests join us tonight are Dr. Michael Snipes, an economics instructor at USF Sarasota Manatee, Ray Supley, a certified public accountant here on the Suncoast, and Rod Thompson of the Sarasota Republican Club. And Michael, I want to stay with you for a moment when you were talking about whether tax cuts will have the desired effect, not only in terms of just helping us all in terms of our daily lives, but boosting the economy. What's your view about that?
Sure. Well, like the piece mentioned earlier, a lot of the tax cuts that are being proposed tend to be tax cuts on wealthier individuals or capital owners or business owners. And so if the basic idea is that if we give these individuals tax cuts, they'll reinvest them back into the economy. We'll go out and we'll hire more workers, and those workers now have income that they can use to buy things, and that stimulates the economy. So the question really then becomes, if we are giving higher income individuals tax breaks or capital owners tax breaks, how much of that tax break are they actually reinvesting versus maybe how much are they counting as profit?
Well, what's the answer to that?
Well, most of the empirical evidence tends to point that a lot of the tax breaks, or at least the gains from the tax breaks, really it's almost kind of mixed. There's some evidence that it does expand the economy in some areas, but by and large, when we're trying to, at least kind of the stated goal of helping middle class or lower income individuals, kind of if that's the stated goal, then there's really not a whole lot of evidence that supports that.
Here, I know, Rod, you want to jump in on something, but here's the question. I think we still suffer the after effects of the Great Recession. And whether you're middle income or high income, the question is, are you willing to spend like you used to?
Right. So it does matter what happens to the tax cuts. To some degree, if you have lower middle income people getting tax cuts are more likely to spend it because they'll need to spend it. I think that's problematic as far as helping the overall economy, because I sort of disagree. I think the stated goal is not to help the lower income and poor, it's to help the economy, which helps everybody, and a rising tide lifts all boats. So the problem is that low income people don't really pay any income taxes, and middle income people pay a small amount of taxes. The problem with this, and the political problem, is that it's the wealthy in the country pay most of the income taxes. When we're talking about income taxes, the wealthy pay most of it. So any cuts in the income tax that could in any way goose the economy are going to benefit the wealthy more, and then that creates a whole political turmoil issue. When you're talking about capital gains cuts and that sort of thing, I think a lot of it depends on the attitude towards the economy at the time. For some companies, they might want to squirrel it away, look for investments when they feel things are safer. But if they feel sort of confident in the direction that the economy is going, they are much more likely to reinvest it.
Well, certainly the stock market has taken off after President Trump won the election based upon the faith that he would be having major tax reform. Ray, have you seen any changes in your clients that you've had to deal with in terms of hope that that tax reform is really going to increase in terms of how much they can invest, how much they can save, how much they will spend?
I mean, I had clients that tried to defer income where they could and pushed it into 17 with the idea of being at 33% versus 39.6%. I think also the attitude, there's definitely a difference in attitude, and I'd call it deregulation, and I'm not trying to get on the political bandwagon. I mean, just to have our president with a positive attitude towards business, that's huge.
Some people said that, repealing the Affordable Care Act turned out to be much more complicated for Republicans than they first, thought it would be. But tax reform is not going to be an easy walk in the park, because there are differences within the Republican Party in terms of exactly what to do.
I think you have two main political realities with facing tax reform being successful. Number one is the tax code itself is a veritable cornucopia of special interests and winners and losers. And so anytime you change that dynamic at all, you're going to have the army of lobbyists and the potential special interest groups at you. So that's one problem. The other problem is that the divisions within the Republican caucus in the House that we saw revealed during the Obamacare repeal failure are going to be almost the exact same still in the tax reform one, particularly the Freedom Caucus is not going to accept something that's not revenue neutral.
Well, that's a really fascinating question that I wanted to ask all three of you is, does it have to be revenue neutral? The Treasury Secretary was asked about that today, and he said whether or not it's deficit neutral, there are a bunch of different calculations and a bunch of different models. It doesn't seem like there's any certainty there. And Michael, let me go back to you for a second. What impact would there be if it's not deficit neutral?
Well, if it's not deficit neutral and we end up, cutting taxes, I mean, there's got to be a corresponding decrease in government spending as well. Otherwise, we're going to have an increase in the deficit. So, I mean, ideally, any kind of tax cut that is proposed would be deficit neutral. Ideally, that would be the case, but how politically viable that actually is moving forward is difficult to say, because, as the point he brought up, you're going to have a lot of special interests there lobbying for their piece of the pie. There are going to be a lot of moving parts, and so exactly where any gains from tax cuts actually end up going, it's uncertain. It's difficult to tell.
And the reality is we're talking about a bunch of different taxes here. Ray, and I know you've been trying to break down in terms of what the president's proposal is and what the proposal is in Congress. And what are you seeing in terms of how tax rates will change given the current proposals out there?
Well, the current proposals, it would drop the individual rates from 39.6 to 33. It would eliminate the Obama tax, the 3.6%. Capital gains would drop from 23.6 to 20, which to me isn't enough. In answer to what you were saying earlier, back when we had President Reagan and we had the 15% capital gains, my clients paid more tax then than they have now. I mean, they were, because people were interested in locking in a 15% gain, people that had businesses that they had owned for years and didn't want to transfer to the next generation sold during that period of time. The other thing is the possibility of the elimination of the gift tax, which could be huge, primarily for the farmer, primarily for a banking family. I know that sounds like you shouldn't be worried about a banking family and having them keep the institution, or a sports franchise. I mean, Mr. Rooney just died this past week, actually, so I'm wondering if we're going to get some push to eliminate the estate tax retroactively to 1/1.
We only have 30 seconds left, but I'll give you the last word. Rod, any predictions in terms of whether it's going to get done this year?
So it'd have to be done by August. I would give it better than 50% chance. I mean, I'm just a talking head from a distance here, but with the finger on the pulse there, I think better than 50% chance because Trump likes to win, and he doesn't have a big win through Congress yet.
All right. Let's take a quick break, and when we return, we'll have final thoughts from our guests, plus what some of our viewers are saying about Friday night's topic, U.S. foreign policy.
Check out My Suncoast Dining on mysuncoast.com, your guide to the foodie lifestyle. ABC7's own Chef Judy serves up her favorite recipes, cooking tips and trends, dining blogs, step-by-step videos, and Suncoast Restaurant Guide. You'll find it all at mysuncoast.com/dining.
Sarasota Magazine and PNC Wealth Management present the Best of Sarasota Soiree at Selby Gardens on April 24th.
It's an evening to sip, savor, and celebrate Sarasota Manatee's best of winners.
This year will be full of Warhol-inspired surprises, entertainment, and a tribute to those representing the best in our community.
Come join ABC7 for all the fun.
Get your tickets today at sarasotamagazine.com.
This is an important medical announcement. Xarelto and Pradaxa have been linked to uncontrollable bleeding and even death. If you've been prescribed one of these drugs and have experienced these dangerous side effects, you may be entitled to substantial compensation. Studies show that Pradaxa can cause more heart attacks than warfarin, and other countries have already issued safety warnings against this drug. Call now for a free assessment of your case and potential money damages. The call is confidential, there's no cost, and you may be eligible. Juries have awarded millions of dollars to Pradaxa victims, and thousands of Xarelto victims are filing their legal cases. Call the Drug Watch hotline if you or a loved one used Xarelto or Pradaxa and experienced uncontrollable bleeding, brain hemorrhage, or even death. You must call now.
Call 800-793-6055. 800-793-6055.
It's no small wonder anybody loves it all.
I just love art that moves me.
No small,
I mean, really moves me.
wonder.
Sunset Fiat of Sarasota presents No Small Wonder, high performance style. Let the art of Fiat move you.
Welcome back. We're going to ask one last time, have you filed your taxes? Tomorrow is the deadline. And what kind of changes can we expect to the tax code under the Trump administration? Our guests join us right now for final thoughts. And Rod, I'll give you the first shot at it.
I would love to see tax reform done in a way that is good for the economy, because something that's good for the economy is going to be good for most Americans, and it's going to be good for the federal revenue coffers. So I would like to see tax reform done the right way. I feel like, however, that it really needs to be attached to some form of responsible entitlement reform. And I'm not saying the big one, because that's too much to tackle all at once. But if you don't do that, you could end up impacting the deficit that we've been talking about. And if we don't have deficit reduction of some sort going forward, we're getting into a problem that we're all going to be concerned about for our children and grandchildren.
Ray, are you and your clients doing taxes this year and moving things around under the assumption that one way or the other this will happen?
Yes, emphatically. I think most of my clients that do a lot of planning are thinking that we will get reductions, that they will get reductions this year for that matter, and anticipate future reductions also.
And Michael, from your perspective, everything that you hear the president and Congress talking about, is it possible to assume what kind of impact it's going to have on our current economy?
It's a little tough. You can look at proposals like this that have been proposed in the past and how successful they've been. But again, if the stated goal is to essentially cut taxes to stimulate the economy, kind of a rising waters lift all boats type of argument, then any gains that come about through tax cuts, we need to keep track of where those gains actually go. Do they actually go back into the economy to stimulate the economy, or do they simply stay where the cuts were initially made? Right? Do they stay with upper income individuals, or do the gains actually, in reality, lift all boats?
Well, what's the research show in terms of past tax cuts?
Generally speaking, there's the research, at least in an academic sense, and from an academic point of view, a lot of the research tends to point that, you can call these under the trickle-down economics school of thought, that a lot of the research says that doesn't really hold water.
Sorry, gentlemen, we could go on here, but we got to wrap it up. Before we go, we want to share with you what some of our viewers are saying about Friday night's topic, foreign policy under President Trump. Tensions are rising in the Pacific. Over the weekend, North Korea held a failed missile test. It is just the latest in the increasingly aggressive rhetoric between the U.S. and Kim Jong-un. This comes on the heels of our military using the mother of all bombs in Afghanistan and the launching of 59 missiles on the Syrian airbase. We asked you what you thought about foreign policy under President Trump. B. Kyles writes, the idiot in charge of North Korea is a grandstanding, lying, idiotic, crazy person who wants attention, and the world's eyes are on him. I agree with the U.S. military, showing him we are not the same America. We will no longer be bullied by dictators, crazy or not. John Forehand writes, North Korea should have never been allowed to get this far, and it is refreshing to have a president that takes such a hard line on them. And Renee Patel writes, just another deflection by the orange monster. When things heats up during the Trump-Russia scandal, you'll see another distraction. Rod is laughing.
Yes, I
All right. Let us know what you think about reforming the tax code system. Join the conversation on our Facebook page at facebook.com/news@7. And FYI, you can watch past roundtable discussions on demand. They're available on Apple TV, Amazon Fire, and Roku. Thanks to our guests for being here tonight. Dr. Michael Snipes is an instructor of economics at USF Sarasota Manatee. Ray Suplee is a CPA and chairman of the board at Suplee, Shea, Kramer, and Rockland, PA. And Rod Thompson is the president of the Sarasota Republican Club. When we return, we'll have a final look at your weather, plus the invasive Burmese python. An appeals court is striking down an attempt to stop the snake trade. Find out why in our primetime headlines.
We asked you, Suncoast, why do you like ABC7?
I like ABC7 because it's local. It gives me all the local news.
The local news, local weather.
It's so local and so community driven. Haley Wilgus does a great job.
John Scalzi, that's my guy.
Bob Harrigan is wonderful.
Stephanie's my favorite. I like Scott Dennis.
I like them all.
We're all very grateful that you cover what you do and you're here to participate with the community.
ABC7, your Suncoast News. We're here for you.
I'm calling in regards about my mother, and I'm here, and I just want to thank you because it saved my mother's life yesterday. And I'd like to know the names of the people that came in and saved her so I could call and thank them. And she's doing fine. It's a wonderful thing. Thank you.
When you fall and cannot get up, an accident can turn into a tragedy. But with Life Alert, one touch of a button can get you help fast. Life Alert saves a person from a catastrophe every 10 minutes.
Life Alert is a lifesaver. If it weren't for Life Alert, I wouldn't be sitting here today.
For a free Life Alert brochure, call 1-800-962-4112. That's 1-800-962-4112. Call now, 1-800-962-4112. For a free brochure, call 1-800-962-4112.
You only have one life. Are you gambling with it? 1 in 3 adults have high blood pressure. Not knowing your numbers could cause you to lose, big time. Luckily, you can turn the odds in your favor by getting your blood pressure checked today. Don't leave your health to chance. Learn more at heart.org/HPB.
Your primetime headlines are coming up in a moment, but right now let's get a final check on our weather from Chief Meteorologist Bob Harrigan. Bob.
Thanks, Alan. I tell you, it's been a beautiful day today, albeit dry. That's been the same old song and dance as of late. Dry conditions. We had some high clouds move in, though, associated with a system way out in the Gulf, but it's not going to bring much rainfall our way, just the high cloudiness now and again. And the weather headlines staying dry this work week. Temperatures slightly above average. Some rain maybe for Sunday. And you can see from the radar and satellite review of what's been going on today, this high-pressure ridge continues to dominate our weather. It's situated right over North Florida right now. Basically, all this moisture kind of wraps around the north end of it and just keeps coming down through the Straits of Florida. We're kind of like in between that, and that means dry conditions will persist for us for the upcoming days. Now, 1 or 2 lone showers not out of the question. We're seeing that this evening as some of the shower activity working its way north, but most areas will stay dry. There are those high clouds I mentioned. It should not be all that much around after midnight. Skies will begin to clear. Now, the radar picture is showing a summer pattern starting to develop down in Cuba and the Florida Straits with a little bit more moisture moving in there. You can see that over South Florida and near the Keys. They had some pretty hefty rainfall there. Boy, we could use just a little bit of that. As I mentioned, we're not going to see much. Some heavier showers, though, moving on into Charlotte Harbor at this point, and they'll continue to move off toward the northwest. There's a chance some of those could hold on near Rotunda and Placida, maybe even possibly up to Inglewood, but the rain chance is still very small. 79 degrees. We have the high clouds around, but other than that, clear. And the dew point 62. Humidity at 56%. Winds are out of the west-northwest at 9 miles an hour. They've been as high as 15 this afternoon, and that's a result of the sea breeze developing. But before that happened, we had east winds, and that warmed things up to 84 degrees, the high temperature. That's slightly above the average, and 89 the record. No rainfall. Boy, that number 7.28 continues to rise, and we're not looking for rain tomorrow. A chance for a few scattered showers, but generally partly cloudy skies expected. The RPM forecast model showing and suggesting that pushing off toward the west throughout the afternoon and evening on in through Wednesday and Thursday. In fact, the same story there. We'll start to see a little increase in cloudiness on Saturday as a front comes down. And along that front, we are anticipating a low-pressure area to develop over the state, and that will bring us a little bit of a chance for showers on Sunday and Monday. East winds turn to the northwest at 10 knots. Seas will be right around 2 feet or less with a light chop in the bays and inland waters. The water temperature started to warm up. It got down to 74 last week due to that front, but now it's back to 77. And beaches will see a high of 83 degrees. Well, for tides, upcoming low tide will be at 109, a high tide at 5 o'clock. Tomorrow afternoon, partly cloudy, clearing late tonight, low of 64. And tomorrow, look for mostly sunny in the morning, a few clouds in the afternoon, 83 your high. The extended forecast does call for warm weather running in through Saturday, and temperatures for lows staying in the mid to upper 60s. Primetime headlines is next. Stick around.
Invest in Kids is a $7.5 million project to build a new Boys and Girls Club in South Manatee County. I'm Caleb Grimes, and I was a club kid. It's where I learned important life lessons, leadership, integrity, responsibility, and baseball. Thousands of kids attend the Boys and Girls Clubs, and after years of use, their club is slowly falling apart. Help us invest in kids. Make your donation today.
Thank you.
Why settle for less? Get more for your money at Sunset Subaru in Sarasota. Subaru is rated the #1 car brand in safety, and all Subaru models with EyeSight are a 2017 IIHS Top Safety Pick. And you can lease the most award-winning small SUV, a new Subaru Forester, for just $209 a month. Or get 0% financing with complimentary maintenance included. Get more for your money. Go to Sunset Subaru in Sarasota.
This is an important medical announcement. Bard IVC filters have been linked to punctured veins and problems with migration. Anyone who's received a Bard IVC filter must receive medical monitoring and may be entitled to substantial compensation. If you have the Bard Recovery G2 or G2 Express filter, you are in a class of patients who should be compensated for some expenses. Call now for a free assessment of your case and potential money damages. This call is confidential. There's no cost and you may be eligible. Juries have awarded millions of dollars to people who should have been warned about the risks of the Bard IVC filters. Call the IVC Filter Hotline if you or a loved one has received an IVC filter and experienced a vein puncture or required medical monitoring. You must call now.
Call 800-329-3089. 800-329-3089.
Now for your primetime headlines. The Trump administration is ratcheting up its rhetoric on North Korea. Vice President Mike Pence is in the region, and North Korean officials are warning any U.S. provocation could have dire consequences. ABC's Megan Hughes has the latest.
President Trump at the White House Easter egg roll delivered a message to North Korea.
You gotta behave.
Check the fence line. His messenger on the ground, Vice President Mike Pence, visiting the demilitarized zone between North and South Korea and meeting the South Korean leader. Pence did not take preemptive military action off the table.
The world witnessed the strength and resolve of our new president in actions taken in Syria and Afghanistan. North Korea would do well not to test his resolve.
North Korea's representative to the United Nations blamed the U.S. for escalating tensions and warned of a thermonuclear war.
The DPRK is ready to react to any mode of war desired by the American.
This weekend, North Korea tested a ballistic missile that blew up almost immediately after launch. But hours before, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un flaunted what appeared to be a new arsenal of sizable missiles in a military parade. And so far, North Korean officials are responding to the tough talk from the U.S. with defiance.
We'll be conducting more missile tests on a weekly, monthly, and yearly basis.
White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer says the Trump administration is hoping it can persuade China to use its influence, leaning on a friendship brokered at that meeting with President Xi at Mar-a-Lago.
We're going to continue to urge China to exhibit its influence in the region to get better results.
The vice president will be moving on to Japan tonight. The Japanese prime minister has voiced support for a tough stance against North Korea. Megan Hughes, ABC News, Washington.
Here in the U.S., a 5-state manhunt is underway tonight for a man accused of killing an elderly stranger and posting the video on Facebook. Cleveland police say Steve Stevens randomly went up to 74-year-old Robert Godwin yesterday afternoon and opened fire, then putting that video on Facebook. Detectives initially made contact with Stevens immediately following the shooting, but not since. 5 states are now on alert. The suspect is believed to be driving a white Ford Fusion.
Obviously, he's got deep issues, and we want to get him off the streets as soon as possible.
Stevens, who reportedly mentored foster kids at a mental health facility, posted on Facebook he had lost everything due to gambling. New developments tonight in the legal battle between Governor Rick Scott and the state attorney in Orlando. Scott transferred dozens of cases from Aramis Ayala to another state's attorney after the prosecutor said she would not seek the death penalty against alleged cop killer Markeith Lloyd. Ayala is challenging the move to the Florida Supreme Court. Today, justices are saying they will allow attorneys working for the Republican-controlled House to file a legal brief in support of the governor. Ayala is a Democrat and Florida's first African-American state's attorney. The Burmese python is a major threat to the ecosystem of the Florida Everglades, and now an effort to stop more of these snakes from coming into the state is being blocked. And the federal appeals court says it cannot halt the exotic snake trade. Snakes can still be traded across state lines. The ruling is likely to be challenged. Now to Tallahassee, where a group of veterans is criticizing lawmakers for failing to protect statues and memorials to Florida heroes. The measure would have made it a third-degree felony to deface memorials and graves of members of the military or NASA astronauts or first responders. The group, calling itself Save the Honor, says there are stiffer punishments for vandalizing a phone book.
Florida has the 3rd largest veterans population in the nation, but memorials for her veterans are currently under attack, being used as either free billboards for propaganda or canvases for public art.
The bill is being held up in the Senate, where the Criminal Justice Committee has yet to put it on the agenda for a hearing. In the House, the measure is ready for a floor vote. And that's all the time we have for this evening. I'm Alan Cohn. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.